Hello viewers, lovely to see you today. This video is going to be a little bit different. Most of you will know me as the sort of rock and jazz and prog pundit here on YouTube. But I have another skill which I've never utilised on this channel, and I'm about to show you it now. It's a very interesting thing, and I earned quite a bit of money outside of YouTube getting hired to analyse rock band photos to try and get into the sort of psychological dynamics of various bands. And it's a skill that I've acquired over the years. It mixes a sort of encyclopedic knowledge of rock music history with an ability to pull out certain psychological states from a photograph. So I've been sent a number of photographs here to analyse, and later on I will write that up and send that over to the lawyers that have asked for my, expertise on this. But I thought I'd, show you inside the process. So I've never seen any of these photos before. So let's start with the first one. So let's see what we've got here. So, is this a band? Yes, well, I don't know who this is actually. I'm more, I'm better at the sort of classic rock bands, prog bands, jazz rock bands. But is this a new band of some sort? This one? Now, I think I can recognise that fellow at the front. That's Dave Grohl, isn't it, from the band Nirvana? So I'm guessing that even though I've never seen any of these gentlemen behind him, maybe that guy directly behind him, I think I've seen him. But the rest of them seem completely faceless to me. I don't know who they are at all. So I'm assuming that this is the Foo Fighters. Is that what they look like, the rest of them? There's quite a lot of them, isn't it? So, yes, anyway, so what we have here is a technique utilised by sort of the more totalitarian dictatorship type of band leaders, where you bring your band together and then you force them to watch you scream as loud as you possibly can. You just scream and scream and scream, and the rest of them have to put up with this, and not just put up with this, but be happy. Now you can see this fellow right on the left here. He's trying to muster a smile, but the rest of them, it's very difficult for them. The one next to him with the dark sunglasses, that's more of a grimace. But the fellow that I've seen him before, this fellow that's behind Dave Grohl, he looks very wary of having to go through this charade of watching Dave Grohl scream his head off and shout obscenities and basically put them down, which is what Dave Grohl does when he does this. Now, if I just look up for Foo Fighters, because I have no idea what the rest of them look like, so I'm assuming this is the Foo Fighters. So just check here. Oh yes, so that guy behind him is Taylor Hawkins, who I believe is no longer with us, is he? He's the only one who seems to have any sort of profile apart from Dave, and he's no longer with us. So I believe they got another drummer in, Josh Freeze, and he wasn't too happy with having to watch this screaming going on, and so he's been kicked out as well. So yes, Dave Grohl's got some fillings as well that you can see in there, which I don't want to see. So I haven't got much to say about it. I'm not very good on this one, I'm afraid, because I don't know these more modern bands. I'm not so good at. So shall we move on to the next one we've got and see if I can know who this band is? Right, so what have we got here? Oh, there we go. Now that's the band I know. The Mahavishnu Orchestra. Oh, yes, I know exactly when this was taken. And this documents an episode in the Mahavishnu Orchestra's history, which is quite well known for us Mahavishnu aficionados, but it's never been made public. Now, of course, we all know that Jan Hammer was a robot. a robot created by John McLaughlin to fulfill the keyboard parts in the Mahavishnu Orchestra. Now the thing is, Jan was a bit of a troublemaker. His circuits didn't work all the time correctly. And he would do all sorts of irrational things. Now, this is the famous episode where Jan hid Jerry Goodman and they couldn't find him, and stuck an American flag to the back of Rick Laird's head. So you can see Rick's not happy at all here. He's not happy. Now, John McLaughlin, when he took on his Gibson double neck SG, as we can see here, there was a switch fitted, and that switch controlled Jan Hammer. And it was essential when Jan was playing up and being all over the place and not working in a rational fashion, that he would then flick that switch. And you can see he's trying to flick that switch very aggressively there, and it's not doing any good whatsoever. Rick Laird has an idea where Jerry Goodman has been hidden, and he thinks he's in a box in the corner of the room. Billy Cobham, however, being, well up on this and quite calm at this point, as you can see, has taken the battery out of Jan Hammer and placed it on the table in front of him, and he's guarding it. He's guarding it with his incredibly fast drum rudiments. Jan, as you can see, completely switched off in a complete daze, and awaiting really for that battery to be fitted back in. Now, John's control of Jan Hammer was a given. Once Billy Cobham started to mess around and take the batteries out without consulting John McLaughlin, this created a great sort of tension within the band, eventually resulting in John McLaughlin booting them all out. So yes, this really shows the dynamic going on in that band, I think. So we'll move on from there. Shall we go to the next one? Yes, that was a lot better. When I know the band, it's a lot better. So what have we got here? So the next one up is Genesis. Ah, yes, of course. Now, this is photographed outside Mike Rutherford's mansion. He had a huge mansion, and he was born inside that mansion because he's actually a lord, although he did keep that quiet. Now, this is taken outside the mansion just after Phil Collins and Steve Hackett had joined the band. And of course, them being the new boys and not posh, not going to chapter house like these three in the middle. A little known fact about Genesis is that Steve Hackett and Phil Collins were never allowed to sit down, ever. And here we have an example of this. Here we have Genesis stood outside Mike Rutherford's mansion, and here we have the famous sitting tree that existed there. Now, when this was taken, what happened was they went outside to take the photograph, and Steve Hackett, being the newest in the band, thought that he could sit down like a normal person. Peter Gabriel, when finding this out, barged across and squeezed himself on there. You can see his hands actually out of focus because he's just jumped into place to try and stop Steve Hackett from sitting down. Steve Hackett is annoyed, as you can see, and he refuses to look at the camera with his hands in his pockets. Something that, the three poshies in the middle never liked hands in pockets. Obviously in Chapter House, they weren't allowed to put their hands in their pockets at any point in time. Phil Collins is a lot more knowing, and he's watching the whole thing going on, and he's getting away with touching the tree, as you can see, in a quite cheeky manner. But Rutherford doesn't care. As we can see, Tony Banks in the middle seems very annoyed, and he's staring very hard at the camera. Whilst putting his hands between his legs and pushing his thighs together, because he really wants to, at this point, strangle Steve Hackett for being so, above himself in the band dynamic. I think that really shows you that, yes, it's very rare that you will see a photograph of those new boys not sitting down. Sorry, sitting down, got confused. Anyway, shall we move on from there? Right, so the next one we've got up is this one. So this is Black Sabbath. And they're sat in Birmingham. Now, of course, you all know that I'm friends with a fellow called Brummy Dave, and Brummy Dave has let me in on a lot of the sort of more esoteric Birmingham pastimes that used to happen, especially back in the 1970s. Now, growing up in poverty as Sabbath did, you'll find that there wasn't much entertainment for the Birmingham people at that time. And one of the things they used to do was to take a chicken and force it to smoke a cigarette. Now, Black Sabbath indulged in this far too much. And their fag chicken, as they called it, by this point had withered away to just a shadow of its former self, really. But still, they're forcing it to have a cigarette, and still, you know, the rest of the guys are being rather entertained by this, as you can see. Bill Ward's looking on, having a bit of a smirk. Geezer Butler's having a right laugh about what's going on. And as you can see, he has pulled the head off his toy Dalek. This happened around about 1972, creating a great problem. He hasn't realised he's done it at this point, but yeah, he was holding, he always had to have his toy Dalek with him, and he was laughing so hard, and he grabbed the top of the head and actually pulled it off, not realising. Bill Ward has noticed that he's done this, and he's smirking to himself because he knows Geezer's going to be annoyed, because of course it's well known that they used to pick on Bill quite a bit at this point. Ozzy, of course, in on the joke, is there providing the mirth as he did. Now, one of the things you'll notice when you watch this is Tony Iommi is not really looking straight at the chicken, okay? He's looking somewhere else entirely. Now, you might think he's seen something else going on in Birmingham. Maybe his dad's driving past in one of his ice cream vans, but it's not that at all. What happened around about 1971 is Tony Iommi's fringe had grown so long and so thick that he could no longer see. And this caused a great problem in the band. And they had to bring roadies in to cut in that fringe that you can see there. But once it was uncovered, and that's freshly done there, that fringe is, once it was uncovered, he found great difficulty on focusing on what was round him. You know, he was always looking around like this, not being able to quite get his eyes onto the chicken, which is far too close for him to be able to focus. It really needs to be taken away to a distance. But it's good to see Birmingham people enjoying themselves there like that, sat on a park bench, enjoying, some fun with fag chicken. I think fag chicken is no longer with us. So let's move on, shall we? Right, so, Deep Purple. Now, as you could see, this isn't the classic Deep Purple lineup, is it? This is the Tommy Bolin lineup. All right, so this is when Ritchie Blackmore had stormed off and they brought Tommy Bolin into the band. Now, Ritchie was annoyed at this fact and pestered the band endlessly. And so Deep Purple came up with a plan, which was a sort of routine they would go into if ever they were attacked by Ritchie Blackmore. And here you can see what they're doing, right? So their plan was to lure Ritchie Black, to lure Ritchie Blackmore back with the Show of Flesh by Ian Pace. So you can see there, and he's putting on his best come hither face. Quite ashamed, you see, he's trying to cover up his old nipples, isn't he? But there he is, just wearing a leather waistcoat. There's nothing on underneath. That's it. He was chosen for his cherubic, youthful looks and the mightiness of those sideboards, which you could see are unlike any other sideboards you've ever seen. Can you see those there? Right, they are sideboards. They look like some hairy thing growing down his neck, but they're not. Now, the plan was, if Ritchie Blackmore was to ever attack, right, the warning would come from Glenn Hughes, who had that incredibly high piercing shriek. So, you know, that that you would hear on the album, that was often not part of the song, but was him, false alarm, thinking that he'd seen Richie Blackmore lurking. So Glenn is forever, see Glenn, that's Glenn on the right, he is forever on the lookout. He's always on the lookout. As soon as he sees that, you know, Pilgrim's hat poke up, he's like, you know, and then they know, and then they go into their routine, luring Richie Blackmore to Ian Pace through the flesh. And Tommy Bolin was trained in rudimental karate, and he would fend him off, because obviously he would probably be the object of attack by Richie. So you can see there he is, you know, he's got his moves ready to go if Richie goes to him. David Coverdale, being a wizard, was able to cast spells. And here you could see him, serious-faced, conjuring up quite an evil, as you can see, an evil sort of gesture, about to send forth some sort of, you know, mal magic, we could call it, to take Richie Blackmore out. This is the sort of stuff that rock musicians do that people don't know of. Now, of course, John Lord, a very cowardly man. You know, don't be swayed by that moustache. I mean, that's why he grew it. Nobody else in this band's got a moustache like that. He felt that, you know, it sort of showed off his manliness, really, by having that moustache. But he was terrified of Richie Blackmore, absolutely terrified. And as soon as Deep Purple was over, he had to join Whitesnake just to get the protection from David Coverdale's magic, you know. It was a silly move, really, because with Ian Pace still in the band, you know, any show of Flesh could have lured Richie, you know, to attack. But yeah, cowardly man, as you could see, at every time they went into this, he would try and excuse himself and say, excuse me, can I go to the toilet, please? John, you always go into the toilet. Yeah, but I really need to go. I've drunk a lot of Lucozade today because I'm not feeling well. That was their sort of choice of drink in the 70s. So if I could just go, no, you're going to stay and fight. No, I don't want to fight. Let me go to the toilet. So yeah, so we can see this is a classic move by Deep Purple here. I think we shall move on. Right, what have we got here? Now, this captures a very special moment in rock history. Here we have Yes in 1974. And you can see it says it's backstage at Crystal Palace with new drummer Alan White. Alan has just joined the band. Now, everybody that joined the band, right? Steve Howe had gone through this, Rick Wakeman went through this, and now Alan White has to go through John Anderson's sort of rites of passage to join the band. So what would happen is John Anderson would go about, scurrying about. Being the smallest in the band, he could see under things and get round things and get into various nooks and crannies until he found a great big spider. Once he got the spider, he would capture that spider like that, right? And he would come out and throw it at the new boy. Now, Alan White has got no idea what is in John Anderson's hands there. He's oblivious to it. He knows something's going on. And you could see John Anderson's face. He's just so full of glee, knowing the sort of fear he's going to be able to inflict on Alan White and then be able to keep him under control. Unlike Bruford, which was his own man. You know, he was always moaning, and then eventually he wanted to go off and you know, join King Crimson. Alan White, once he was in for the rest of time because of the fearful thought that John Anderson would come at him with a rather large arachnid. Now, of course, the two tall guys in the band, Chris Squire and Rick Wakeman, had no real fear of spiders at all. So they're just chatting away. You know, they've seen it all before. Steve Howe, however, after his experience with the spider chucking, is here apprehensive and is looking on, knowing what's about to happen, but also fearful. Now, this is the reason why Steve Howe, once he gained control over the band, ejected John Anderson out of the band, the cheeky little chap. Look at him there with his spider. But yes, that's what we've got there, is the spider initiation ceremony for the new boys in Yes, something that's not that well known. I think we get into the back of these. I think we've only got one more to go. So let's see what we have here. Very esoteric choice. Very esoteric indeed. Here we have Soft Machine circa 1975. Now, Soft Machine, being a sort of instrumental jazz rock prog band, never really made that much money. And so the only way they could make money was with an alternative business that they ran, which was crab fishing. And so they would have to go out, at the weekend on the little boat, HMS Soft Machine, and fish for crabs. Now, if you're out at sea in the winter, it's a tough environment, and you really do need to keep warm. Now, here we've captured, as you can see, you've got Alan Holdsworth sat in the middle, and he's actually sat on one of their crab catchers. Can you see that? He's sat on, that's a crab catcher. They would get a few of those, sling them behind the boat and ride along. Now, not all of Soft Machine would do this. We know they would take it in turns. Now, here we could see John Marshall and Carl Jenkins of they're crouching next to Alan Holdsworth, who sat on the crab catcher, and you can see they're still dressed in their fishermen clothing, their crab catching clothing. You can see that they've only just returned. Now, this is filmed at a very famous meeting where Carl Jenkins and John Marshall, the ones crouching at the front, got very annoyed with the new boy Alan Holdsworth coming in, because he was the favourite of Carl Jenkins. Carl Jenkins is standing with the sort of incredible, Richard III bob, black glasses, and that incredible moustache. Now, you can see they've all got moustaches. And there was a rule in Soft Machine that you could not join the band without a moustache. As we saw with Deep Purple, only John Lord's got the moustache. Now, John Lord could have come in and joined Soft Machine at this point. But in the end, there was two keyboards at this point, because I believe Carl Jenkins, who was playing sort of oboe and saxophone, also played a bit of keyboard. So they got more keyboards than they needed. But John Lord did have the moustache. Alan, however, could not grow a moustache. Carl Jenkins and John Marshall didn't care about this whatsoever, and they were very angry, and they said he must grow a moustache. And so a meeting was called where Alan, they sat round, stuck him on a crab catcher, and they had a discussion trying to resolve this. Now, as this photograph was being taken, John Marshall and Carl Jenkins were quite irate about this, and Roy Babington and Mike Ratcliffe had to physically hold them down. You could see them holding them down in place, forcing them to sit next to Alan Holdsworth. Basically, Mike knew where his bread was buttered, because they were about to record the album Bundles. And of course, we know that the only album that anybody listens to by Soft Machine is Bundles. And why? Because Alan Holdsworth's on it. So they knew this, and they had, he hasn't got a moustache, but he's really good. It's that divide, you see. And so that is what we have here, is the great meeting of the great moustache meeting of 1975 with Soft Machine. So you can see, by doing this and analyse the photographs in the way that I have, you start to pull out the sort of band dynamics that exist, in bands. Oh, a shame we got no more, but I think we'll leave it there. It's a little video just to entertain you, with a bit of alternative music thing. Shut the door. More photos coming. It's all I do all day long. Anyway, if you would like to see me analysing more photos in the way I've just have, stick a like on and subscribe. If you want to become a member of my Patreon, that will support me. And if you want to support me, you can become a member here or put some money in my PayPal tip jar. Thank you for watching this video, and hopefully I will be back soon to analyse more rock photos for you. Thank you very much.